Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I'm your host, Veteran Mountain Man, and it is a beautiful Wednesday. And of course, today we are actually going to talk about something that is heavily in the news right now. It's spurred on by the Gillette commercial and the idea published by the APA that masculinity is harmful. Now, there's some things that I want to cover that I haven't exactly heard covered by some of the different conservative media hosts out there. So, yes, masculinity can be harmful. Mostly it's harmful when it's not directed well. Most of the time, masculinity becomes dangerous when the person doesn't realize that there are limits to the type of power that you're allowed to hold and consume. And that mostly occurs when others around him will not stand up to him. And so this idea that all aspects of masculinity are dangerous or toxic or unhealthy actually harms society at its fundamental core. Because right along with aggression comes courage. Courage can stand up to an aggressor. And it can stand up to an aggressor the same way that a small child will stand up to a bully. The small child might be beaten up several times, but eventually the small child will either come up with a way to deal with it, or they will come up with some other solution to handle it. And I'm not talking about this false bullying crisis and school shootings. I'm talking about what happened in this country for decades before this idea of feminizing men came about, which is where a man would come and address the parents of another boy if their son couldn't eventually come up with some conclusion. Eventually things would escalate slightly and not drastically. This idea that everything has to be extremes, and that everything is either good or bad, period, end of story, and that nothing has actual gradations when it comes to concepts and ideas and philosophies is just absolutely asinine. Aggression can be healthy, can be functional. Stoicism can be useful. Stoicism teaches you to reflect inward on your feelings and come to a better understanding of them. Now, Stoicism can also cause you to brood, but they are two different things. And considering the basic concept of psychiatry and psychology is to get a person to look inward and understand their emotions and understand their reactions and to try to build better behavioral patterns. To be fair, you need to have a certain amount of stoicism for therapy to be effective. Yet, the APA has published a report blaming masculinity on the health of men, when what they need to be doing is actually looking at psychology the way that they did in the 1980s and the 1970s and the 1960s and even in the 1950s. Now, I don't want to go back to having people such as lesbians and gays involuntarily incarcerated in psychiatry wards, because I think we all understand at this point that that was cruel, that was inhumane, and that was based on bad science. But this idea that masculinity is dangerous and unhealthy and horrible is based on those same things. This is not a new behavior pattern. It is repeating the same process, people. And it's not just here that this is happening. With many of the social sciences, we see this same behavioral pattern. And it's something that we need to start rejecting. We need to dictate independent verification of these social studies. We need to have actual peer review implemented on these concepts and articles and philosophies and ideas. Because what has happened is that the market has been cornered in these ideas. And nobody is willing to speak out. It's a lack of courage that is allowing these kind of ideas to thrive. And it's time that the American people stood up and said, no, here is the courage. Here is the positive side of masculinity. And it's about time we started using it. Well, I want to thank you all again for joining me. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, don't forget to check me out on BitChute, Gab, Twitter, and all the other social media sites that I'm on. And as always, have yourself a beautiful day.